can almost catch red drum year-round in Virginia waters. All winter, we have the hot ditch, where we can use spinning, tackle, and light lines, lures, and bait.
Down there said they caught some drum.
Yeah, that's what we trying to do. Anything.
That steam rising is from truly hot water.
We're trying to catch some of them.
Now the source of which is the hot water discharge after cooling the turbines at the Gimmerton power plant.
Is it slow enough to catch fish?
Yeah,
I think so too.
Yeah.
There's a barrier that blocks access to the headwaters so that boats will remain downstream.
Got one on right ahead of it. Fantastic.
Oh, yeah. More under. Pretty good size, but he's got there.
Oh, that's pretty. Look at that. Oh, wow. Way to go.
Well done, Jim. Excellent.
Oh, that's beautiful. Oh, wow.
Good deal.
These puppy drum are very plentiful and they range up to 35 inches in shallow, warm water.
Oh, that's beautiful. Isn't that beautiful?
There you go.
Well done.
When we're casting for red drum or puppy drum, we use a couple of different lures. And the first thing we're going to use is a light spinning rod and reel with probably 8-pound test line. Now, one of the lures we're going to use is a mirror lure, okay? Now, the next one we're going to use, again with about 8-pound test line, is a lead-headed jig. Okay, the lead-headed jig usually has a plastic tail behind it. And we're going to do this under two situations. One, if we are casting from shore and retrieving, we are moving the lure through the water. Now, if we're slow trolling or drifting, we're going to cast the same lure out, but we're going to let the current sweep us to move the lure. Now, most of the time, no matter what we have on here, unless it's a mirror lure, if we have a jig, we need to have some real meat on there. So we take a little piece of menhaden or something like that, and you'll see that in just a minute that there's a piece dangling from a hook. Now, that's what we're going to use when we're casting from shore or when we are in a boat drifting. Now, the lures we're going to use casting are a mirror lure. There's several different colors of these, and most of them work real good. The second thing is a rattle trap, and it gets its name because of it goes through the water like this and is very effective. The next thing we can use is a lead-headed jig, okay? That's a lead-headed jig. This is a lead-headed jig. And on that, we must put some type of bait and usually a piece of plastic on the top of it. Now, I want to make sure you understand, this is a bucktail. It has feathers on it. It's got hair on it, right from a deer. This is a bucktail. We don't use these. We use these that can secure whatever kind of plastic you want to put on it or a little piece of meat. We've now moved above that barrier you saw on the shoreline, and now we're going to cast lead-headed lures with small pieces of cut mullet on the hook. There's the lure we're using. Now, while Terry Berge inspects our puppy drum, we're all catching and releasing more.
Ready fish, Doc.
Absolutely. Beautiful shot, Dave.
Guess we got one this time. Yes, look at him run! Hey! Yes, got one.
Yeah. They're pretty with a hole like that.
Yes, they are.
The seawater temperature at the Cape Henry wreck is 35 degrees. In the hot ditch, everybody out here is catching beautiful fish just like this. This is a puppy drum, 20 inches long, absolutely beautiful. And now it's Bruce Graham's turn. He's using a red-headed jig with a green plastic tail. Whoa, 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 whoa! Now this special rig was used with cut mullet. David Ladd had a hot hand all day. Now he's using a spinning rod and casting into the shallow, warm water at the opposite bank.
Now, if we're going to be anchored, and trying to catch red drum, we're going to be using a high-low rig. Okay, that means one hook's higher than the other one. Now, again, you don't need a heavy-duty rod. We got 8 to 10 pound test line on here, and we're using a standard commercial high-low rig. Okay, you don't need to have a standard high-low rig. You can simply take just a little more of your ordinary line. Okay, put two knots in it, and then put your hooks on the end of there. Now this will work just as well as a store-bought rig. Again, you got your hook on there, but you need meat on here, and it's usually menhaden or mullet or even a smaller bait fish that you were able to find and cut up like a sea bass. But you do need meat on these bare hooks.
Leaving the hot ditch, we can find that an anchored boat in the various canals can be very productive, even in cold water. Remember one thing, speckled trout are also available in the very same locations.
When we're away from the shoreline and we're not trolling and anchored, there's two different things we're going to use. First of all, if we're out there wreck fishing and we're anchored over the stern of the boat, our lines are going to tend to go forward, okay, with the current. So therefore, we need a little different type of rod. It's shorter, it's stronger, and the line needs to be a little bit heavier so we can really put pressure on that fish to get him to the boat. In that case, we're going to use a little shorter rod such as this one. Now, we'll put 40 to 50 pound test line on here and use this when we're anchored on a boat, anchored from the stern, okay? Now, the traditional method, when you're not fishing on a wreck to start with, would be to anchor from the front of the boat. And we'll bring you in that in great detail in just a few minutes. But as you can see, this is a heck of a lot longer rod. It's got a heck of a lot more play in it. So we can put less strong line on it to get the same effect, because we're going to be bringing the fish into the current up to the boat, not from the front of the boat to the back of the boat. And again, we got about 30 pound test line on this rod and reel. Now, let's show you what the terminal tackle is going to be like. We need, this is called a fish finder rig. It simply slides up and down the line. We'll show you in a minute or two exactly how it works. This is a barrel swivel. It's used so that your line won't kink up. It'll rotate around, and this will unleash the turns in your line if the tide is moving your bait. This is a three-way swivel, and we use it if we're going to use a few specific types of rigs. Now, at the very end of the line, on top of one of these, we attach a weight. Now, what kind of weights do we need? Well, this one has got a hole in it. This is called an egg sinker, and it slides up and down your line. We don't want this one, okay? Now, this one, while it's flat, usually doesn't come in a big enough size to hold your weight. Now this is a trolling sinker. We don't want that when we're bottom fishing. Now, this is called a bank sinker, and it's flat sides in 6 different places, and it is better than any of the others. But the best one all the way around is always going to be this pyramid sinker. Now the pyramid sinker will tend to stay pretty much where you put it when you cast out. So this is our choice. Now, okay, what kind of a hook do we use? Well, these are the standard black drum hooks right here. These are the famous Circle C hooks that I like so much. The Circle C hooks seem to always, almost always, hook the fish in the corner of the mouth without having them be swallowed. And that way you can easily release the fish many times by just jerking the hook a couple times. So this is the terminal tackle. Now, we put this about 18 inches down from where our knot is, below this, okay? Above there, above on the line, the fish finder rig goes with the weight. Below the barrel swivel, 18 inches down, goes a hook. We always use cut bait. And we can use menhaden, or we can use anything else that's fresh. If we caught it that day, it's going to be good. Bluefish is fantastic bait.
Now let's go out into Chesapeake Bay, and we're going to go up to my favorite spot. It's my secret wreck. Now we've anchored along the eastern shore of the Chesapeake Bay, and we're trying to bottom fish for red drum. Now this is a very heavy rod and reel, and we used a fish finder rig and cut menhaden for bait on 40-pound test monofilament line. We caught 7 red drum this trip, all during daylight hours. Again, we had an outgoing tide and an overcast sky. These fish can be caught when the sun is out, but almost always they bite best after the sun sets. However, video isn't really as good, and on the beach, no one wants to be around with all the lights on. South of the Chesapeake Bay and in North Carolina's Outer Banks, these are the places where the large channel bass are caught. And they're sometimes called spot-tail bass or redfish. But the really big ones are only caught up in the north, not in the southern end of their range, which goes down into the Gulf of Mexico.
You saw him?
Yeah. His fin was up a minute ago. A lot bigger than the other one. Just look at that overcast sky. Good 10 feet long. However, it does not say that unless it breaks off. Yes, it does. That's what we wanted. Big channel bass.
Ooh, I just got a good shot.
See how big he is? Yep, yeah, I want to keep him.
With the long game.
Okay, go ahead.
Second cast is right here, so you have to reach for it.
We're fighting a strong fish from an anchored boat, and it is work. It takes just as much fun and energy to catch and fight a big shark or a big ray as it does a red drum.
Just don't fall off.